There we go.
Oh, perfect. Well, sorry, it was recording him then.
That's okay.
I love that. Perfect. So, now I have to back up and do it. So boundary setting, in my mind, is super important. When we talk about it with teenagers or with college students, we talk about boundary setting around alcohol. When I talk about it with women, I'm typically talking about boundary setting, during an attack. So for example, a lot of times I'll have women say, if I'm mugged, I don't want to give them my wallet because then they have my address. So in those situations, we typically say, give them whatever they want, right? Give them what they want. Your life is more important than your things. At the same time, if you're in a situation where now I'm worried about them having my home address, then we absolutely want to have that in our heads first and then decide, okay, well, maybe I'm going to carry a money clip so that if I'm going to throw it, right? All of these things. Situational awareness in a time when you're in a space that you don't know. I typically say, where are the other exits? Not even just in homes that you don't know, but restaurants. Typically, there's an exit through the kitchen. What can you do to make yourself safe in that place? And maybe thinking more and more about who is this person? Is there something about them that feels off? I was having this conversation yesterday. I was standing in a Starbucks in downtown Minneapolis, and the person next to me, it's 90 degrees. They're wearing a black sweatshirt, black pants, and a black balaclava. Something about that is off, right? So keep it in mind that your awareness is important. Does anybody have any questions so far? So one of the big things that we talk about, especially with real estate agents and property managers and things of the like, is use technology to keep you safe. I'm not going to say this out loud because I've accidentally called 911 twice, but you can use your technology and say, hey, whoever you are, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, call 911. Has anybody accidentally ever pushed on, I know it's on an iPhone, the two buttons, and it pops up and it says it's going to call 911? So I did this once. I was on a motorcycle, I couldn't click off, called 911. Explained the situation, talked to the 911 operator, and hung up. What happened next was that my phone said, we are going to notify your in case of emergency contacts in 8, 7, 6. And I couldn't turn it off. So all of my emergency contacts were alerted that I had called emergency services, excuse me, and here was the location. So technology has really got to the point where we can even alert those we love and care about to what's potentially happening to us. Let me double check to see if perfect. So one of the things I want to talk about are weapons. So has anybody ever heard, like, don't carry a weapon because it will be used against you? We hear that all the time. So typically what we say when it comes to a weapon is if you know how to use it and it's something that you carry often, the person isn't going to be able to use it against you. If your knowledge of it is greater than theirs, it's going to be very hard for that person to take it away from you. So that's something like pepper spray. If you carry a knife, I carry an expandable baton and a tactical flashlight, and I'll talk about all of those tools and pros and cons for all of them. But one of the things I definitely talk about, especially if you're touring a place that's been set up for viewing, common objects are everywhere. Are there vases of flowers? Are you carrying a water bottle? Even your coffee right there, absolutely a common object. There's a little vase back there. I see you could throw that. You can even use your laptop, right? Take it and hit someone with it. There are a lot of things that we can use when we don't have something on us that we feel can be used as a weapon. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what those little white flags are over there. But I was seeing they're very pointy. You could absolutely stab someone with those. I know that's right. I know that's sorry, right? But literally anything, and literally anything. And that I think is so empowering. A lot of times people don't always feel comfortable using their hands and feet, best weapons that you have. There are things available. So my mother loves crystals. She sent me a very large amethyst crystal, and it's this big, and the first thing I thought is, this is a great weapon. It's pointy, it's hard, I can hit someone with it, I could throw it. There are all these things I can use. So typically, anything like I've mentioned here, if you carry a lanyard, it's a great tool to keep somebody back. I'm looking at your purse, you're saying, yep, absolutely, great tool to keep somebody back. When it comes to what we call personal weapons, personal self-defense weapons, one of the things I want to forewarn people about is pepper spray. Does anybody here carry pepper spray? In your car? So there are a couple of things about pepper spray. Here's my question. Has anybody been pepper sprayed? Okay, not gonna ask any questions, but I have also been pepper sprayed.
It was by a dude, so.
I have also been pepper sprayed. I was actually teaching a pepper spray class, and the wind changed.
Oh, no.
The wind changed and it hit me in the face. So keep in mind that pepper spray is wind dependent. So if you're spraying it outside, there's a distinct possibility that it can come back to you. I had a friend, she carries pepper spray, and she pulled it out, and I looked at it and I said, why did you tape it? She had taped the flap down. She said, well, I didn't want it to go off in my purse. And I said, I understand that, now you can't use it. So we want to keep in mind, once again, if we're comfortable with it, great. If you're not comfortable with it, it's going to be very hard to use in a stressful situation. So if you carry pepper spray, what we typically say is, once a month, take it out. What we do, whichever, if you flick this way or you stick your thumb in, whichever way, I'm going to practice it. I'm going to spray, bring my hand back. I'm going to push it, and I want to have my arm locked, specifically because it's significantly harder to push my hand back into me. My skeleton is stronger than my opponent's muscles, and that's always going to be the case. If I have my arm bent in any way and there's any push or pull, it's going to make it easier for that person to gain access to your weapon. The other thing I want to keep in mind is, if you have pepper spray, make sure it actually works. I did pull one out one time and I went to spray it and it didn't work. So if you do carry it and you've never tried it before, especially if it's older, make sure that somehow it hasn't gummed up and works. Does anybody carry a knife? So don't worry. I used to carry a knife, and then I found that I was strictly using it for Amazon packages. The other thing we want to keep in mind is, how close do I have to be to a person if I have a knife? I have to get pretty close. And then lastly, the other thing I have to think about is, am I willing to use it? This is gonna sound somewhat gross, but keep in mind, once a knife goes in, it's actually much harder to pull it back out, right? Especially if you've hit bone or certain types of tissue. You can cut yourself. And our instructor, we were learning how to take away an axe. And he said, keep in mind, if you use this axe on this person, you will see that every day for the rest of your life. I carry two items. I carry an expandable baton. If anybody's ever seen one, right, you probably would have seen it on a cop show. I know they did on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if everybody watched that. I like it because once I expand it, it's a long distance weapon. I can keep someone back significantly. The best weapon to carry, a tactical flashlight. Has anybody ever heard to carry a tactical flashlight? So here's the best part of it. Who here has not used a flashlight before? Exactly. Everyone knows how to use a flashlight, thus making it harder for someone to take it from you. Secondly, tactical flashlights have what we call a DNA collector on them. So there's an edge where if I hit you with it, it's going to be sharp, it's going to take away some skin. I have something to use later. Third, if I'm flashing in your eyes, obviously blinded, I can run. If I need to, I can kick. So pepper spray, a knife, I didn't mention tasers. Does anybody carry a taser? The question, can we take, fortunately, it was not to me, somebody else, that person said it maybe after a couple drinks. You know what, good on you, my answer is always no. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Sure.
Or anything I've said so far? Okay,
Is there, well, I guess for base, is there a better brand, or I know I've looked at different, like some have the switch, some you twist, like is there a better one if we were to carry it?
so the question was, if you were to carry, and I'm sorry, I'm just repeating because I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Is there a better brand? So what I would suggest is actually, if you're going to carry it, carry pepper gel. So pepper gel previously was for police force only, that's no longer the case. It shoots more direct, it shoots further. In it, it has less likelihood of going out. So the way the spray works, right, is it comes out and it expands and covers a wider area. The gel is more likely to go in a more direct line. Now, the only thing I will say is I was showing somebody how to do pepper spray and I shot it and we have fake heads. We have a lot of random things. So I shot and it went this way past the person's face. Now, they may have gotten some residual spray in their eyes, but I realized it was like, shoot, I'm gonna have to really make sure that I can spray correctly. If you do purchase Saber Red, one of the things about Saber Red pepper spray or pepper gel, you can purchase, and you can purchase this on Amazon as well, a 2-pack. Typically, the actual pepper spray is black and they have a trainer and it's blue. So if you ever go to make a purchase of a pepper spray and it's blue, that means it's a trainer. It will not have actual pepper spray in it. It will be a water-based solution. That way, and then Saber Red includes a little sheet with a person's face on it to actually help you practice that spraying motion. And I highly, highly recommend it. They're a great brand. I will send Caitlin some information about all of the things I've talked about, as well as a link to an upcoming workshop that we have in our place in Stillwater. But that's a great question. Saber Red is kind of like the industry standard. If you've made a purchase at like Menards or a Walmart or anything like that, that's probably what you've purchased. So what is Krav Maga? So what is my system of self-defense? It uses your body's natural reaction to defend yourself against attacks. And it's everything from how to defend against a slap or a punch to how to defend against weapons. So typically what we teach people in like a real estate agent self-defense is we teach punching and kicking, how to defend against a slap, any form of choke. We do work on how to get out of a corner. That's been something that a lot of people have asked, like, what do I do if I'm trapped in a corner of the house? And then really we spend a lot of time answering questions and helping people who maybe have experienced something or have some anxiety about something, and we kind of work through those situations. I know that we had talking about things and then having maybe a demonstration. So if anybody would be interested to see how to defend against a slap, would I have a volunteer?
Yeah.
I mean.
I don't,
I'll do it.
perfect, it was like, someone has been volunteering.
Yeah.
I love a good voluntold, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Perfect, so if I'm here, can everybody online still see?
Yeah.
Is there people online?
There are people online.
Kick his ass.
I appreciate that. So, don't worry, I'm not gonna kiss you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna keep you. I won't hit you. All I'm gonna show you is the defense against the slap. So,
Perfect.
okay, question.
Yes,
Do you know how to slap someone?
yes.
Okay, good. I asked that question because I've had people and they do this as a slap.
Yeah.
Like, that is not a slap. A slap is a very big motion. So all I want you to do is slap me. boom, so I'm here. All I'm doing is this 90-degree angle. So the best part of this is, it's not super hard, right? 90 degrees. Can it be 89? Yes. Can it be 95? Yes. The only thing I want to be careful of is if the slap goes and my arm goes straight, hand can go push over, hand can go down, hand can come up. So I'm going to slap you now.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. For my own sake.
Yeah.
Good, so you can put your hands up. Good, so I'm gonna try and slap you, okay? No, I'm gonna try and slap you, you ready?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Good, so. Here, the best part, thank you very much, I appreciate it, right? So,
Yeah.
actually, what I'll tell you is for me,
Go down.
for me, I can actually feel that up into my shoulder and down into my hand. I've done this for years now, so it's like, for me, I'm super used to it. For somebody though, who's really trying to harm you, this, once again, your skeleton is stronger than their muscles. So that's one of the most important things. Oh, were you practicing or a question? Nice. Actually, you know what? The best part, especially if you have people in here who you like feel comfortable with, try it. Yes. What's your name? Anna? Anna, I think you would have fun. It's in a self-defense workshop. I could just tell. So the most common attack in the world is a slap. Typically, if it's more masculine on masculine, it's that big haymaker, right? If anybody's ever seen a fight, the only fights I've seen in real life, it was literally just this. So this works against that. With women, it's typically big slaps if they're not going for your hair. This block also works against knives. So typically what we tell people, this block, assume that there's a knife. So what we tell people, you're gonna block punching and kicking. Like I said, punching and kicking is always an option. So discussing a punch, does anybody here have any like kickboxing, boxing, like martial arts experience? Perfect. So typically what they tell you, right, is to use a fist. For us, we highly suggest an open hand. We suggest a high five to the face, essentially. And the reason for that is if I punch with my fist and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm highly, highly likely to break my own hand. And in a situation where you're fighting for your life, that's the last thing that we want. So really what we tell people, if you're gonna be hitting, like we want to use that open hand. Has anybody ever heard of Krav Maga at all? No? A little bit, okay. So one of the things about Krav Maga is that, let me see if I have it on the next slide. There we go. What we want in a self-defense situation is I'm gonna take something hard and put it on something soft. So my hand to a person's face, right? Get hit in the nose, you've probably got 10 to 20 seconds later to run. Just put something hard on something soft, take your foot, kick them in the groin. Yes, it does hurt vulva just as much as it hurts testicles. I can attest to this. Super painful. Either way, it will give you a chance to run. Take something, right? Take something hard, put it against something soft. Typically, we tell people the first person to the eyes wins. Can also attest to this. I was sparring, a student of mine went like this. It was an accident right across my eyes, took out a chunk of my cornea. I went to the hospital. They could not help me because they are not eye specialists. And the next day I ended up at an emergency eye clinic. I literally could not open my eyes. So it is the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. So I always tell people the first person to the eyes wins. It's super, super important. Actually, yeah, like the Larry Curly and Moe, right? Like, with that open hand, that's the other opportunity is if I'm unable to hit the nose, my fingers can go straight for the eyes. Vulnerable points on a human body, right? Eyes, nose, throat. It only takes 5 pounds of pressure to crush a windpipe. And 5 pounds of pressure is squeezing a pop can, right? So if I squeeze a pop can, that's 5 pounds of pressure. Ears, boxing the ears will absolutely rupture eardrums. Has anybody seen Miss Congeniality, right? Sandra Bullock does sing. solar plexus, instep, nose, groin. The only thing we'll say about solar plexus, it's super effective. But the situation is you have to be pretty accurate. So to find your solar plexus, right, you're gonna hit your breastbone and come down about an inch and press in, right? Very exact, it sucks. But you have to be very exact with it. Like I said, balls, testicles, vulva, anything goes. Knees only go one direction. They also takes about 5 pounds of pressure to break a knee. Does anybody here wear high heels, Doc Martens, like chunky shoes, right? Doc Martens or high heels? You know what? Great weapons. They really are.
This is like their church as a babe.
Right, right? Like, we highly recommend, especially people with high heels, take them off, use them as a weapon. Great weapon. I had somebody wearing Doc Martens, stomp on the top of the foot and twist. Anything that you can do to protect yourself. And that's one of the other things about Krav Maga as a system of self-defense. Anything goes. When I fight my other co-owner, his name is Peter, I spit, I pinch, I grab his hair, I pull chest hair out, I twist fat right on the sides, under the armpits. So if I know what an oil check is.
That's sturdy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a thumb up the butt. He moved so fast, it is. And I'll tell you, he moves super fast. And so that's what biting, everything, whatever you need to do. Oh yeah, I was on the ground, he was laying on me and I could not get him to move. And I started to panic and I just went, boop, and he was up and across the gym, right? Unexpected. So whatever you need to do to stay safe, you do it. There are certain things now that you're like, I'm never gonna forget that.
Yeah.
That's also important, super important. Take something hard, put it on something soft. So what we teach, these things, like I mentioned before, we teach real estate agents, we teach property managers, we talk to people all the time. And we do practice hands-on self-defense techniques in a safe environment. And we always make sure that we have time available for whatever people may ask. And I'll do the same thing here. Whatever questions you may have, like I will absolutely answer whatever they may be. We also really spend a lot of time doing boundary setting things. I don't know if this is something that you typically find, but a lot of people talk about like that kind of weird, creepy hug that comes around. Maybe it's not with a client, maybe it's at a bar, or maybe it's at a like company party. We talk about how to defend a lot of those things. And then one of the biggest things, is everybody here Minnesota, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin, if I am in your space and I've made you feel uncomfortable and fearful for your safety, that is assault. So that's a big one. That a lot of times people think they need to touch me. There needs to be some sort of physical contact for it to be assault, and I can't do anything until then. That's not the case. If you feel uncomfortable at any point in time, you can absolutely say something or do something to defend yourself. Something that's not on here that I just learned, we are a one-party consent state. So thinking about verbal violence, if you're in a situation where someone is verbally like assaulting you, you can record it without their knowledge. We are as a one-party consent state. Only one person in the conversation needs to be aware that it's being recorded. So keeping in mind that sometimes with physical violence, it often seems easier to handle, right? A lot of times I'll have people say, well, if they hit me, I can hit them back, right? But there's plenty of forms of violence that are not physical, but are just as harmful. And sometimes, if not more, right? Intimidation, things like that, especially in a situation where you're alone, can be super, super uncomfortable. So it's okay. I would like to show one boundary setting move. Would anybody be willing to? Yes, you know what? Perfect. Thank you. And you can keep your watch on. This one you don't need. So in a situation where I'm feeling like maybe a little uncomfortable, and I'm gonna do this in two different ways, because it's different depending on if you're more masculine or more feminine. So if you were coming towards me and I didn't want you to, I'd come here, yep, And the next thing I'm gonna do is this. So what you're doing is you're feeling, can you feel? I'm pushing into that little notch right here. God, I hate it. I've been doing this for years. So if you feel it, right, if you see, right, there's that little divot, just push in a little bit. Oh, yeah, yeah, and I was like, no. So for typically what I say for women is if I'm uncomfortable and I don't want this person to come any closer, I'm gonna step forward into the situation. And the reason for that is if I'm stepping forward versus I'm stepping backward, what is the difference? If I have more control stepping forward, I have more control.
And like, yeah.
I have more control. I also look less scared, right? If I'm moving forward towards you, like, even if I'm absolutely terrified, it sends a different message than if I'm moving back. Now, for people who are more masculine, well, the reason we actually have you move back, so if you're coming towards me, I move back like this. The reason for that is there are cameras everywhere. Then if I step backwards, I can be like, hey, I tried to stop the fight. He kept coming. So now I have kind of permission to end the fight. Absolutely. Okay, there was a big old slap in the back. Absolutely. Right? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to practice that, if you want to practice it with me, feel free. Like I totally don't mind. But it's very much if you notice, hand on the chest, fingers in. Now, originally the way people like to do it are like, bam, don't do that. If that becomes a little bit more like assault, it's super aggressive. What we want to do though is make some space. And if that person keeps coming, this is kind of a stay back, right? We talk a lot about ending the fight. So typically in self-defense, and this is something that people are like, well, I don't want you to teach people to fight. Understandable. The important thing in a self-defense situation, if you can avoid it, absolutely, you avoid the situation. Typically, though, what we say is, you've come to us because I wasn't able to avoid this situation. What do I do if I can't walk away? What if I can't get in my car and leave? What if I can't cross the street? What do I do? So we have a number of things like that we teach. Like I mentioned, we do have one coming up. It's on Tuesday, August 20th at 11 a.m. If you're interested in signing up, like you can get the information at this code. It's super valuable. It's a 2-hour and the cost is $50. It's at our place in Stillwater. While we're here, does anybody have any questions? Any situation that you've ever worried about or felt uncomfortable in?
What if someone like actually grabs you, like?
That's a great question. So what if somebody actually grabs you? I would highly suggest kick, punch, punch. So if you're here and you want to practice it, you don't have to. If you're online and you want to practice it and get up in your office, you can. So typically what we do is when we teach a kick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to flick. I'm aiming for the groin, right? For anybody who's ever been hit there, right? It really only takes a little bit. So what we're going to do is you go kick, and then what we do is punch, punch. So, and we typically suggest people to do that twice. So we typically go kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch. And the reason for that is, and for anybody with testicles here, what is your first reaction if somebody goes to kick you?
I know.
Absolutely, it's gonna be this, which then puts my face where? Typically right within punching distance. And kicking and punching is honestly not only always an option, it's a great option, right? Once again, I'm taking something hard, my foot into something soft, their groin. Taking something hard, my hand into their face. And after that, after you run, we typically also say within 30 seconds, call someone. Whether that be the police, whether that be a friend, whether that be someone, especially for those of us raised female, typically what we find is after 30 seconds, we start to blame ourselves. I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that. I should have been like this, that. But the thing is, if somebody is going to attack you, it's all on them. There's nothing that you could have done. To not provoke it, if that makes sense. And that's not to be victim blaming. I actually find it somewhat comforting. Because a lot of times what women will say is, well, I don't wanna make him mad. And so what we say to that is, if it's a good guy, if it's a good person, there's not a lot you could do that is gonna make that person snap and harm you. But if a person had poor designs in the first place and wanted to harm you, they were probably, it probably doesn't matter what you're going to do, they're going to do it anyway, right? Like, if they wanna be a bad person, right, they're going to be. But I always felt better about that, cause I mean, and honestly, raised female, I had a lot of fear of men. And that kind of revelation, like, he's a good person, like, there's not a ton I can do to make him, I mean, maybe I can hit him with a car and then he's gonna do something, but like, that's pretty extreme, right? That's an extreme thing. But that's a great question. We always say, if someone touches you, absolutely defend yourself in the best way that you can. If someone grabs you and doesn't hit you, go to the eyes, take your hands and right in the face. You have a lot of options, especially if the person is not hitting you and they're just grabbing you. Good question. Anybody else? Anything? So when we talk, or when we offer workshops, we actually offer a lot of different things. So we've done anti-carjacking, we've done active shooter response, intro to self-defense, defending yourself on the ground. There are a lot of options out there and available. We do permit to carry for those of you who are interested in carrying a firearm, defensive shooting. We understand that when it comes to self-defense, like there are a lot of options. We just highly recommend some form of like hand-to-hand combat. Just because you never know how, especially carrying a firearm, how do I pull the weapon? What if they are too close? What if there are a lot of ifs, especially when it comes to weapons. So that's why we suggest practice with whatever it is. If it's a firearm, I'm going to pull it out of holster, come back, pull it out of holster, come back. For me, with my expandable baton, I take it out, I close it, take it out, and I close it. When I was on Zoom a lot, I had a knife. It was almost my fidget. I did not tell my employee that. But right, how do I open it? How do I close it? How do I open? How do I close it? Right? The more you can practice, the better. Is there anything that you were interested in seeing?
What about if, like you talked about, if an agent is backed in a corner, or like, if they feel like they're like shut in a room or something at a house, what would you recommend?
But recommend?
Yeah.
So when we've talked about people in the corner, that kick punch still works. The first thing I honestly would do is spit in the person's face. So part of the reason for that is, has anybody ever been spit at? So if you have if somebody goes to spit, even if they don't spit in your face, right? If I do this, what is their natural reaction? It's gonna be to move backwards. That's gonna give you some time to start kicking and punching. If you have any objects nearby, thinking like, I'm standing right here, like, for those of you who can't see, I'm pointing to the corner. There's like, I don't know what these balls are. Oh, these are great, right? Great weapons. I'm not sure what they are, but they'd be fabulous. So if I backed in a corner and I can see that I have some form of weapon, right? Hard hat, absolutely. If there's something that I can throw, if there's something that I can do, actually, yeah, put the hard hat on, just be prepared.
Yeah.
If there's something that I can do to keep myself safe, I will throw that first, and then the kicking and punching. If there's a situation where things start to feel awkward with a person and you're kind of backed up into an area, one of the things that we like to talk about is try and angle yourself to put yourself closer to the door. If possible, in like a room like this, for those of you who can't see, there are desks and chairs. If I was in a situation where I was uncomfortable, my goal would be to angle myself so that I have a table between myself and another person. And then my goal would be first door, second table. So if I needed to get to the door first, absolutely, that's gonna be where I go first. If I can't do door immediately, I wanna have an obstacle between me and that person. Does that?
Yeah.
Did that answer that? Perfect. We do have other techniques. We do have a push that I think is super effective. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Jada.
Jaden, would you be my, would you be my person? So, especially for people, I've had, women and more femme presenting people say, I don't feel comfortable punching somebody, but I could push them, right? So typically what happens when I go to push somebody is it looks like this, right? That's my muscles against Jaden's muscles, right? You look like you're athletic, right? It's hard for me. I'm going to hit you, is that okay?
Yeah, go
Awesome,
for it.
so the situation is this, good, so if hi, hi baby, hello,
Yeah, right.
you wanna be part of this too? I know, actually, 100%, if you have an animal and can teach and train them to growl on command, 100% suggested. So in this situation, instead of a push like this, what I'm actually looking for is going to be a. So, right? Right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop, I hit, and I come right back. And the reason for that, that recoil is I wanna leave the power, on Jaden, right? So, once again, right, this, especially for somebody who's bigger than me, is gonna be ineffective. But if I do kind of. And bring it back as hard as possible, thank you, thank you for being my volunteer today, I really appreciate it, right? So that, in that situation, you end up with, you end up gaining distance, and then you can reassess the situation. One of the things that we typically say about criminals, especially as they're starting out, is they're typically cowards. Now, unfortunately, I mentioned earlier that there was somebody who had been stalking real estate agents. Most criminals are cowards and are looking for what they assume is an easy target. And what I typically say is that nobody's an easy target. You have the tools to defend yourself, we just show them to you. That's kind of our big thing, like, if you don't remember anything from today, the biggest thing is to take something hard and put it against something soft. That's really, really what I want you to take away, and the first person to the eyes wins. Any other questions? Yeah, like I said, if you're interested, we do have a self-defense course coming up later this August. If you have any questions you are uncomfortable asking in front of other people, like, please feel free to let me know. But thank you all so much for being here, and yeah, thank you for being a good audience. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I love the puppy joined us.